I'm Matt Sargent with ABC Acres in Hamilton, Montana. Today is January 3rd, so Happy New Year, even if you're watching this later in the year or years down the road. Today we're going to talk about layering and the various types of layering as far as plant propagation. I do want to start by stressing this is not something you do in the winter or when you have freezing temperatures. This is for spring, late spring, summer, when there's vegetative growth happening. And I'm out with our raspberry patch just because this is easy to get to and I can demonstrate the techniques. But remember, you want to use this during the spring or summer months, and I'll go over various types of layering propagation. Not all of them are suitable for raspberries or blackberries, some of them are. And then the other side note about layering is it is a form of clonal propagation. So if you have a very productive raspberry or rose or just a beautiful azalea or rhododendron that you want to propagate, this is a way to use it. But if you're looking for genetic diversity, it's not going to happen. It's going to be the exact same as the plant that you took your layering from. All right, the first and most basic type of layering is a technique called the simple layering technique. This works really good with low-growing shrubby type plants like climbing roses, honeysuckle, rhododendron, azalea, boxwood. If you have any of these plants and you want more of that plant, this is the easiest and simplest technique to use, hence the name simple layering. And basically, you're going to take one of the low-lying branches, dig a little hole next to it, and then using either a landscape staple or just a lot of dirt, you're going to bend it down and back up. It can help to scar on the bottom side of it, but typically when you make that bend, the plant will kind of snap anyways, but that's where the roots are going to come from. And then you're going to bury that area, keep it really nice and moist and wet, and then when you come back to it a month or two later and you can't pull it out because it's rooted, you're going to sever this here with some snips, dig up your little baby transplant, baby it for a while because it has young tender roots, and then the following year transplant it where you want it to be. And that's simple layer. And then the next simplest type of propagation via layering is tip layering, which is how raspberries or blackberries are typically propagated. And basically what you do is you take the tip, and just like in the simple layering, you're going to bury the tip in the ground, keep it nice and moist, and then once it's got roots, you snip it off from the parent shoot. There will be new vegetative growth coming out of the ground where the tip is, where the new roots formed, and you now have a new raspberry or blackberry bush. All right, the next form of layering is very simple, very similar to simple layering, but it's known as the serpentine layering method. So if you have a long, low-growing branch, instead of just doing one layer like you would in the simple layer, no, I just snapped that one. But you put it in and out of the ground, so it kind of looks like the Loch Ness Monster coming up out of the ground, and every buried part of that longer branch will form roots and create multiple plants that way. So instead of just getting one transplant off of one branch, you might be able to get 4 to even 6 with the serpentine layering technique. Yeah. All right. The next form of propagation via layering is called mound layering, and you're going to have to bear with me because I don't have any great visuals for this one, but it works really good for propagating rootstock for apples or quince or pear. And so say you bought some rootstock for apple and you wanted to propagate more, and you've got your one rootstock planted, it's growing nice. You're going to prune it down to about 2 inches above the soil, right? And then it's going to have a flush of new sprouts, new shoots coming up in all different directions. So say these are all the suckers coming out of that single apple rootstock you bought. So now you have 5 different suckers. What you're going to do is you're going to mound soil up around it, keep that nice and moist, and all of these new sucker shoots that are coming out will start sending roots out. And then you cut it flush, and each one of these is now a fresh new apple rootstock with roots that you baby. Once it grows big enough, you can now graft on a chosen variety of apple. And that's how you get rootstocks for apples. All right, and the last form of layering is known as air layering. And I referenced this in our video about roses and how wonderful roses are. And it had some people confused. So I'm gonna try and cover it as thoroughly as I can. And this is more, there's a lot of plants that can be propagated this way. I don't want to get into the list. And depending on whether it's a monocot or a dicot, you handle it a little bit differently. So you'll need to do that research to figure out what is the most appropriate way to do that. But basically with air layering, you use some sort of container, and instead of doing the simple layering in the ground, you can actually do the layering on the branch above ground. And what's really nice, if you use like a clear plastic bottle like this that has a hole cut in one end and you can open, is you can see the roots develop. But basically with a monocot, where you want your roots to form, you're going to make an upward cut about 1/3 of the way into the branch, and then hold that open with a toothpick. And I don't want to do any damage to this raspberry, but basically if you can use saran wrap or a bottle. Oh, I broke the twig anyways. But you have your branch going through the bottle, and I'm looking like a major moron right now. Let's try this again. So you have your branch going through the bottle. I'm just destroying these raspberry bushes right now. You've made your cut. If it's a dicot, you actually cut the bark all the way around. But you have your either yeah, you have whatever you want to use to hold the soil. You can use saran wrap. I like using a bottle like this, and then you fill it with wet, moist peat moss. So you fill it up. I'm not going to fill this all the way up, but you get the general idea. Keep it moist, and then if it's in sun, you're going to want to put something over it so it's not just baking in the sun. Either a shade cloth or aluminum foil works. And you're going to monitor it, and when you see the root growth, then you can take your receptacle off, cut it, and you now have your new plant. And that's air layering, and I hope that made sense. Yeah, I'm just out here destroying raspberry bushes. Anyways, thanks for joining us today. I hope you found this useful, and until next, oh yeah, I'm getting a little ahead of myself. As always, we welcome your comments and questions. We love to hear from you. And until next time, happy growing.